now. There it is.
We're here.
There it is. I'm gonna get myself more of this. Okay. Cool.
Boom
Right,
skis.
right here.
Looking fresh, buddy, with the Jughead bandana again, as per
Thank
the
you.
usual.
Thank you very much. I got my hair coming up next week with Paul, so we'll see what we're going on. This is, I mean, with it growing out, this is just how it looks for now, you know? Yeah, I
For
mean,
now,
it
yeah.
actually looks more like this, but it's just the easiest way. The headband is just because I can start to feel it on my face and stuff, and as I operate, it will fall. And so if I
Super annoying.
push it all the way down, yeah, I mean, you
Yeah.
can see how long it really is.
You
Yeah. So,
got a lot of good lift and volume in there, buddy. Must be using
yeah.
those what was that old, like, the shampoo that was really popular? Herbal Essence, maybe, where like every commercial was like a girl having an orgasm in the shower as she shampooed.
Yeah,
Oh,
usually when I get my haircut, it gets thinned out a lot. Like they'll just go in and just take a lot. Yeah,
with that weird scissors that looks like a comb. That's like,
exactly,
yeah, that's like magic.
exactly. Yeah, I told you we're gonna do some collaborating with Paul at Swell Blended. So if you guys are watching this now, um, next week, yeah, I'll be doing. Wants to take some pictures of me, and I've got, I'm gonna go ahead and just pump myself up. I have really nice hair, so
You do. You got a nice, healthy set of hair there, my friend.
yeah. So
You guys gonna get some pre-op and post-op stuff?
I'm not sure exactly what he has in mind, but whatever it is, I'm down for it. So
Oh, word! I'm excited. Should be
yeah,
fun. So, how are you,
yeah.
brother?
I'm
How's your weekend treating you so far?
doing good. Today is Saturday, so um, I have a different
Nice.
bug that you can see. It's not my usual.
No, I
Um,
like yours. It's very cute.
there you go. Yeah, this is the Jordan has some bakes going on this weekend, so there's some dishes going on. So
There's some dishes going on.
we only have so many mugs available at this point in time.
Oh yeah, right.
I've also had a lot of coffee today because I woke up, I had some coffee, and then I bought a coffee, and then
Starbucks or
no, there's the stand by the house that's like Urban City or whatever.
oh yeah, yeah, yeah. Is
Yeah,
that place
that's
pretty good? I've
yeah,
driven by there a million times. I've never gone in.
it's a real good spot.
I don't
They
think
used to make their frappuccinos with soft serve ice cream, which
they know what
is
they're doing. They know what they're doing.
so
A
yeah.
milkshake
But
with coffee in it.
I don't know whether or not they do that anymore, but they used to, and it was really good.
Really good. My
Yeah.
phone screen keeps slipping as it goes down.
That's another perk of the double phone is I just have it opened up, so it's its own kickstand. Either way, it's its own kickstand, so it's pretty sweet.
Such a double phone shill.
Yep.
Every day. Oh, well, you know what I could do with my double phone? Let me tell you.
I do a lot of shit with my double phone. I'm telling you.
It seems very convenient.
The only downside still is just that like when it's closed, that front camera only has the one panel, you know. That's the
Yeah.
only downside so far. If we were 5 years more in the future and the second one could go like translucent when I closed it so that I could still use the inside screen, that would be sick. So whoever makes phones, do that,
Get
man.
on
Yeah,
it.
that would be rad. So
I love it.
like when in whichever Avengers it is, and Tony Stark has the phone that's just like the piece of glass, you know, and he's doing all that shit on it. I don't know if you remember, and he's like tapping it on stuff to like blow it up onto, you know
That
what I'm
might
saying?
have been Age of Ultron because I watched that recently. I feel like I remember
Exactly.
that. It's like,
Exactly.
dude, that's a clutch phone. And he just like throws,
Yeah,
just like flicks
exactly.
it like that, and the data goes on another float screen. That's legit.
Exactly.
That's the future of
Exactly.
the studio, bro. You just wait.
Just, wow, wow. Yeah, it's gonna be sick.
Good.
Yeah.
So I wanted to ask you this:
Yes.
did you catch the Timcast IRL at all on Sunday
No.
or Friday?
No.
Because he led off with a story about payments to illegal immigrants crossing the border when they turn them away. You saw about
When they turn them away?
yeah, and I've just
Really?
now seen like a couple stories coming out because essentially the first bit of news started to drop Friday afternoon, and which is always like bombshell night, you know,
Yeah.
because nobody wants to cover that stuff on the weekends because there's not as much viewership. But it, you sent me that video the other day from what, ABC or NBC,
Penny.
and
Fucking
and
great.
basically just showed the same stuff that we showed on the last episode, except it was a mainstream media outlet really actually covering it for the first time.
Right.
And that,
Also covering some of the things that I put the camera up there. Um, Also covering some of the things that your brother had sent us earlier in the week, right? Like your
yeah,
brother had. So credit to Chad, that he had sent us some information that I had a little bit of trouble like fully corroborating, but like images of illegal immigrants in some of the airports in Texas with like manila envelopes with like messages on them that like places that they're going saying like I don't speak English, help me. And ABC only covered that part, but these other sources were also saying that they had cash in the envelopes, like up to like $2,500 that they were being given by Border Patrol. But ABC was even covering that like a lot of them weren't given any type of court date, weren't being asked for any type of contact information when they were being released, like any type of anything.
just
Uh,
show up and play,
yeah, and
which
just
is,
will process you, will give you a ticket to go wherever you're going to go, and then,
yeah.
you know, we'll see you later, which,
If that's
which is
if
the
that's not
exact
an
opposite
incentive, I don't
of
know what
California.
is.
Well, and it's the exact opposite of what's being presented, like the complete opposite of what's being presented by mainstream media. And a lot of these, I mean, admittedly, a lot of them were families and shit like that, but there's also a lot of single individuals that we're being told are 100% being turned away at the border that are also moving to this airport in the exact same way. So,
Yeah,
um,
it was nice though to finally see a mainstream media outlet finally jumping on board after we've been talking about this for, you know, months and months and months at this point, if not years.
yes.
But just, you know, they did the whole thing with the facility under the bridge, you
Mm,
know, and then I really like the fact that they brought up the like the church and stuff from the town and like all these little um I guess you could just call them a charity or nonprofit or something like that, actually going
certainly.
down to try to help these people because the government is incapable of doing it.
Yeah.
It's bad, man. It's real bad.
Yeah. So we'll see what comes of that. I have like gonna be like two press briefings to watch because you know we always talk about this in the off week. I'm far less activated. I watch way more stuff. I have some stuff written down here that I watched this week that I'll talk to you about. But I have like two press briefings I think to watch. But I have like 6 or 7 note cards already stacked up of press briefings and stuff that I
Yes.
watched. So um,
I
it's
like the fact I noticed that you left the old stack of cards here in the studio. So as
I'm
time goes on, I've got to find like a perfect size box for it. So
that's
as time
exactly
goes on, it'll just
yeah.
grow.
I was
I
trying
love
to
it.
decide what I was gonna do with them because they make boxes like that, like specifically for note cards, you know, like long ones. So
Oh yeah, and they have the little tab things in them too, so we can just
exactly,
per episode.
yeah. So I'm
Oh,
thinking, I'll have to probably scoop one of those. Tim might even have one,
I bet
just
you he
sitting
does.
around at Bannock, you know,
Yeah,
though.
he's got office supplies up the yin yang.
Exactly. So because that would be the best thing if I could stack them up. That way, if anybody ever asks me about like, oh, where did you get that, or like, what's that source, I can be like, oh, I
Yeah.
have my note cards for the last year, you know, stacked in this box. Like, because after that, I feel comfortable. I can throw it away and be like, oh, that was a year ago. Like, I have got to do some research to find my sources and stuff. But
Yep.
the last year, I feel like that's a good resource, you know, to
Oh
just
yeah, for
the
sure.
note cards stacked up. Be like, no, no, this bitch said on this day, this is what happened. Yeah.
Yeah, man. I'm looking forward to it.
Accountable.
Yep. Oh, and then it also looked like you guys went to JJ's today for lunch.
Yeah.
Man, I haven't been to that
So
spot in a minute. Is it still get the halibut chips?
it was prime. Yeah, so we went down to the waterfront and me and Jordan the baby, Dax, not a baby anymore. It's like 2.5 almost. Um, and we played on the waterfront. There was a yacht that pulled in, so we watched the yacht and he ran around and there was like a bunch of people out. It was nice to see. I told Jordan when she sat down, it definitely made me realize that like over Corona, I developed a little bit of social anxiety just from not being out, um,
Oh yeah.
and now my deal is just interacting with people. Like I'm not nervous about coronavirus. I'm not scared that people are going to get me sick, but I don't know how other people are, and that's what makes me uneasy. It's like I don't know how someone is, and I don't. People are so on edge and so uneasy that like if you do one wrong thing, they could fucking just pop off because they're like, you're fucking trying to kill me and my family, and I like that's the last thing that I need in my life is any type of interaction like that. And
Yeah.
so, like with people's kids and stuff, that's what Jordan says is like with people's kids, you don't know what their parents are telling them, so you don't know if those kids also are thinking that your kid is doing something wrong, and it's a whole deal, like there's another level of complication to interaction that I'm unsure of.
Yeah.
Uh,
You
so
combine that with our techno crazed world already, where people were already starting to withdraw before the pandemic, and it just gets
exactly,
weird out there.
exactly,
I mean, I probably have like 4 different sets of people that I will communicate with on a regular basis, and each one of them, it's nice because we've established this at this point. Like some people will greet with like they'll want to do like a fist bump. Some people
yeah,
they'll put their hand out there to like shake hands, and some of them just are like they just walk up and start talking.
right,
It's very strange, but after a while, it's nice to know what situation you're walking into
yeah,
with those people that you know. And so when you run into somebody out in the real world in your IRL life, and you haven't met them before, like there's no established rules yet. People
right,
get weird. The mask is usually a decent indicator, the type
yeah,
of mask they're wearing. If they're sporting an N25 or an N95, don't bother putting your hand out or nothing. But if
yeah.
they're wearing like a one of those, we'll see what happens. They're
Well,
probably pretty
that's
loosey goosey.
like on the waterfront, we're outside. And so
Yeah.
like I didn't wear a mask because we're outside.
No.
But there's obviously still some people like walking around on the waterfront that are like wearing masks and shit. And Jordan was going to put one on. She's like, oh, I just saw like, and she's sitting there. I'm not talking shit about her, but she's like, just because other people are like, and I was like, I'm not, I'm not doing
Yeah.
that. I'm not. I'm only willing to go so far into this whole thing of like, it's like certainly if I'm going to go into a business like they're asking me to do that. I'm like, but if we're outside, like fuck you. I'm not wearing
Yeah.
a fucking mask because we're fucking out. We're outdoors. Like
Yeah.
I'm not doing
I'm not
this.
putting it on like before I get out of the car. Like
No,
I'll
no.
put it on right before I go into your store or something like that. But
That's
that's
exactly what I did. I had it in my
yeah.
pocket because I have that neck gaiter now, so I had it in my pocket. And then before we went into JJ's, I put it on, got in, took it off.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, so we did that, and then we went to JJ's, and Jordan got a 3-piece halibut, and I got a 3-piece cod, and then we got Dax a little fish and chips. We also got some calamari. Dax loves calamari, so he sat down
Hell
and started
yeah.
5 rings of calamari. Yeah, it was awesome.
This is
Um,
the first time having calamari.
No, we had it a couple weeks ago when Trenton came home. We went to Silver City. We came into town, and he was like, "I really want to go to like
Yeah.
somewhere to eat." So we went to Silver City, and we would just. That was the first time when we just started giving him calamari, and he was just eating. Like there was no question about it. So this time, yeah, we just went for just cut some pieces up.
The boy's got good taste, bro.
Macking it, yeah. So he had a banana and calamari and some French fries for lunch, and he was super happy.
Oh
Uh,
yeah. I'd be happy with that.
Yeah, so I had that cod, and then Jordan had the halibut, so we like split a little bit and had
Oh,
that
yeah,
beer.
you're slumming it with that cod, man.
Fuck, it
George's
was.
making the right call with the halibut.
They were, I think, we talked a lot about obviously the differences in the fish, and the halibut that they had was a little bit fattier, which is delicious. It
Mm-hmm.
also tastes like a little bit more like fish, just because there's more fat in there.
Yeah.
Um, because it was fatter, it had big fucking thick flakes in it, dude. The layers of
Ooh,
fish
yeah.
were so enormous. And it's
Mm.
like we talked about how spoiled we are living in a coastal state with the fish that we have, that like the fish there is so fresh that you're like you're actually chewing it. You know what I'm saying? Like if
Oh
you eat
yeah.
a frozen fish fillet, like it just kind of like mushes in your mouth. Like this is
Yeah.
like meat fish, like you're breaking off flakes to like eat. It's amazing.
Mm. You got to
We
quit talking now. I'm getting hungry.
well, and then we even had a little bit left over, and so Jordan air fried it, and made a fish sandwich for dinner. And that looked really
Too late to
good.
get a fish sandwich.
Yeah, it was good, and it's so fresh. Like it took like 4 minutes from the time that we ordered to when they brought it to the plate. You know what I'm saying? Because it's
Oh
just
yeah. Yeah, drop it in real quick and it's done.
Amazing.
Hell
Amazing.
yeah.
Yeah.
Amazing.
Had that beer, had that Western red beer. Delicious.
There you go. Yeah, Carolina went to Costco today and scooped up a bunch of new that Rogue Newport Nights. I showed you that one.
Nice.
It's turning out pretty good. It's a West Coast IPA brewed with El Dorado hops,
Nice.
which is good because I watched that John Wayne movie El Dorado the other day, so it totally
Very
makes sense.
So there was one thing that I wanted to talk to you about because when I was down on the waterfront, my mind started running, as it does.
Mm-hmm.
So down on the waterfront, there is the memorial for Stone Child Chiefsteak,
Yes.
right? And so I started thinking about just the whole situation, right? And that was 4th of July 2 years ago, not
Yeah.
last year, the year before. So it'll be 2 years this coming July. And I was just thinking about just how much my mindset has shifted on these types of things since
Mm-hmm.
that, right? Um, and then I was thinking a lot about the way that like we talked about it at the time and was just going over it, you know what I'm saying? And so I was talking to Jordan on the way home and I was like, I feel comfort in myself that I know for sure when we talked about it, we weren't like defending the police officer. You know what I'm saying? Like
Yeah.
we from the very beginning were saying like we need to wait and see what happens, you know what I'm saying, so we can make a more accurate decision on what happened. I don't think we ever revisited it, which is neither here nor there. That's not the point I was saying. But
I think you did an Instagram live stream
yeah,
around that concept, and you
yeah.
wanted to really point out the fact that you didn't want. There's an investigation underway, and we'll just wait for that to come out and find out what happened.
And at the time, I remember like getting called a bootlicker and being like really confused at the time of like, why is this happening? And then like on the way home, I was telling Jordan, I was like, which is funny because it's like I would probably call myself a bootlicker now, you know what I'm saying? Like, which is just a difference in like in the way that my point of view has shifted, you know? It's like, so like at the time I was very confused and now I'm like, I would probably say that same thing, you know?
Right.
But
Yeah. Your evolution over the last few years has been highly interesting.
yeah, yeah. And so then I was just thinking about how I feel differently about it and why I feel differently about it, you know? And so one of the ways now is like the standards of self-defense because I have a we've talked about this before, a personal way that I feel like the world should be and then the way that I feel like it should be in accordance with how reality is, you know what I'm saying? Like a
Mm-hmm.
more realistic I think expectations or whatever. And so personally, you know what I'm saying? I feel like police officer is a representative of the state. So a representative of the state should not be taking people's lives under really any circumstance, you know, and certainly they shouldn't be held to a different standard of self-defense than I would hold myself to, you know.
Mm-hmm.
That's not something that I feel like is acceptable. And I remember at the time, I like I did kind of feel that way, you know, that I'm like, oh, well, he's a police officer, you know, so like if he's doing that, then he's probably making the right decision, you know, and I don't provide that benefit of the doubt anymore because I think I just have a more realistic idea of like police officers are very much everyday people, you know,
Yeah.
they're just dudes, you know, like they really are just dudes. And so um
Yeah. I mean, me and you are basically a job interview and a background check away from being a cop.
right.
It's really not that different. I mean,
And
it's just
that's one of the
a
things
few
I
months of training.
and that's one of the things I thought about is if I was in that situation, not as the police officer, but as myself, if I was to be hemmed up for murder, then I feel like the police officer should be hemmed up for murder. You know what I'm saying? Like if I personally hold that person to the same standard that if I'm expected to not take that person's life, then I expect you to find a way to not take that person's life because I am held to the exact same standard. And just because I provide you, we as a society provide you a badge, I do not feel like that puts you at a different standard. You know what I'm saying? But my feeling that way isn't in line with other people's reality of the way that they handle their own personal safety. You know what I'm saying? Like I can feel that way because I also take a certain amount of my personal safety and my family's personal safety into my own hands. You
Mm-hmm.
know, and I know that. And when I was talking to Jordan about this. I'm not saying that I would have like been on that dude, but certainly am in a crowd and see somebody behaving strangely, it's something that I'm keeping track of. You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying?
Yeah.
And because I don't feel like I have the I would hate to use the term, but like the privilege to just turn a blind eye to what's going on around me. You know what I'm saying? Like I feel like it's my responsibility as a person, as a father, as a husband to be completely aware of what is going on. Um, but because people don't do that, they like as a general society, they give this extra license to police officers that sets them up in this situation to like, even though you don't have the training, like we aren't going to defend ourselves, so you need to do whatever you need to do to make sure this is okay. Which I just feel like is a fault in society,
Mhm.
to put police officers in that position where they have that ability. I think that's a mistake. You know, um,
Especially with a decades and decades long track record of them being treated differently in the justice system
right,
post, someone, a officer involved in killing. It's they're typically always they have a different. I don't want to say it's a different system, but it's certainly a different type of system that they go through
right.
that if it was you that pulled the trigger that day. And I think just by like the way you framed that,
Does
I
that
would
make
have a
sense?
feeling it does, but I have a feeling it's mostly tied to the fact that you're a concealed carrier. Um, and your entire mindset when you operate out in the world is totally different now than people that don't do that. And even, there's a small fraction of concealed carry people that don't operate like that, and they probably should. But I mean, I think that's probably really where that change in mindset really stems from. Is a long-term concealed carry guy, you're always strapped. And so, we've talked about that before, where you feel like you've kind of gotten more paranoid, might be the right word, about just everything in life. It's like we've talked about when I go to a movie theater, I'm always watching the exits, and I'm super plugged in, and looking for something in that environment to pop in that's not supposed to be there.
Right.
And I feel like that is probably just it's a mindset that most people that either don't have a law enforcement training background or somebody that doesn't conceal carry every day has no conceptual, they have no conceptual knowledge of what what they would do in a situation like that, because they've never thought about it, because the police are just there to protect them. And
Right.
so they're just I don't want to say sheeple out in the world, but I mean they're giving up a certain portion of their, oh, what's the right word? I don't want to say liberty, but like their freedoms, or they're passing off a portion of their responsibility to move throughout the world, and passing that responsibility of self-defense over to the state or municipality. And so
Right.
that kind of concept never enters their mind. And I would have a feeling that that's probably where that change in mindset probably stems from.
And I,
And especially over the last like 6 months to a year, where that self-defense aspect has really been driven into you really, really hard, and you've taken
yeah.
onus of that, and you've done all the training, and you've done all this stuff, probably even more so now, going like, what was I thinking back then? It's just you live in a totally different world nowadays because of the situation that you've put yourself into.
Yeah.
You're just not the same person anymore. You can't be.
And I feel like that until that mindset is shifted on like a larger scale of people giving up their personal responsibility for their personal safety, like we as a society are almost doomed to this cycle of what we're talking about, this like dichotomy, I believe would be the right word, of police being able to kill people and us having to decide whether or not we feel like that's justified, when if they didn't have a badge, we would automatically not feel like it was okay.
Yeah.
Like we remove that ability or that option of objectivity away from us when we put them on that higher level, which I think is a mistake, as we're seeing now. You know what I'm saying? Like
Oh yeah.
that's a mistake. We didn't change anything about the way that the system worked or the way that we view police or anything like that. And now all of the cities that took all these budgets away are putting money right back into it. You know, nothing is different now. It's the same. It's like the same concept as like everything with immigration. If you don't change the system or the way that you're viewing things, the actual internal workings, nothing's any different. You have to go right back to the exact same thing, and it's that's concerning to me. You know, it's concerning to me that the more people, regardless of their skin tone or their ethnicity or their anything like that, that we see killed by the police. I'm like, this is a problem. Like, you have people who are given badges by the state who are taking people's lives. Like, this is a problem. You know what I'm saying? And that
Especially if you agree with an officer involved killing and you don't agree with the death penalty.
and it's lost, you know what I'm saying? And that's like
Yeah.
deeply concerning to me. And I have, because of, like you said, because I have an understanding of the mindset shift that it kind of takes to be at that point. I have a certain amount of like empathy for people that are stuck in that. But I start to lose that empathy when they start to try and, when the people who subscribe to that same ideology also start to try to take other people's abilities to defend themselves. You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? Like, I
I would
start to
say,
lose empathy. I'm like, well, go fuck yourself. Like, if you want to leave it up to somebody else, that's fine. But you can't choose the way that I choose to defend myself. You don't get to make that choice for me. You
yeah.
know what I'm saying? So
And I
I
think like to take that concept into like a deeper level, I think you could probably carry that down to most people's fundamental disagreements with some of the stuff that we talk about. Everything from free speech to the Second Amendment. Most people's opinions and stances on these things, they don't have any true, they don't really understand what they're talking about, because our lives, due to our the way our privileged society has worked, our lives are so compartmentalized to our own little bubbles. And like we most people never have a problem with free speech. Most people don't. It's only the people that are going out there and talking about the things that are, hot topics, that experience it. The 2A, the Second Amendment stuff, that the most vocal people for gun control have never owned a gun and will never own a gun, and they think they're terrible. It's like
right.
they have no concept of what they're dealing with. And you could probably apply that to so many different aspects of every little hot button issue. Everybody has an opinion on something that they have never and may never experience or deal with at all in their lives. And
Yeah.
even if they do, they don't experience it on a personal level where it's their onus and their free speech and their right to defend themselves and their right to privacy. It's like anyone that has experienced an infringement on one of those rights will die on any of those hills any day. Somebody that hasn't experienced that will fight against those rights any day of the week, because they have no idea what it's like to deal with the consequences of not having those.
Yeah.
And I think that same kind of thing applies. People just don't understand what they're talking about, and not so much in a, more like in a textbook. What's the right word I want to use? Like ignorance way. They have no concept because they've never dealt with that at any time in their real life, even though they might think so. But I totally get where you're coming from, though. And yeah, especially with what we're looking at now, with like the George Floyd trial being it, or the Chauvin trial being in the news almost every single day, and all this now.
Yeah.
It's like so right there in front of everybody's face. A lot of people are going to have opinions. A lot of people are thinking about that same type of, law enforcement problem that we have.
Right.
And it's only going to get worse. It's going to be,
Well,
especially as the trial gets to conclusion.
yeah.
We're going to be talking about this all over again.
I'm starting to get worried about the amount of people that don't understand or are not seeing how they're forcing themselves into this cycle, by, like we were talking about, by like pushing for defunding the police and concepts like this, and then also supporting like these executive orders and these types of like gun reform and legislation and things like that, like removing people's ability to make decisions on how they want to defend themselves. Like, you're forcing yourself into that cycle because you're taking choices away from yourself, even if you don't see it right now, because like you said, because you don't own a gun. if something happens and the police are gone and you can't have a gun and you feel like you need to defend yourself and then you go and try and get one, then you can't have one, then you're in a bad spot. Like you don't even have that option anymore, you
Yeah.
know?
It's
And
like, all
that
right, I'll just go buy a baseball bat, put it next to my door.
and that concerns me. Like it's really starting to make me nervous that people are not seeing that they are not recognizing. And it's only, when there's 5 million new gun owners last year, there's at least 5 million more people that know that, but
Yeah.
that in a country of how many fucking people live here, like 330 million people or something like that. Like that's not that many, 5 million to 330 million is not that many. Like, so it's,
Yeah.
that makes me very nervous that the, like the lack of follow through almost, or I'd hate to say lack of critical thinking when that's probably what it is, but like long term thinking, that you are not able to see through multiple steps, but thinking something through to its logical end, right?
Yeah.
And it's like I was talking about with Joe Biden's thing the other day, you have to follow this through to its logical end, and like when no one is in your neighborhood because you don't like to have the police presence there because apparently it makes everybody nervous. You don't like to have a gun because it makes you nervous to see other people with a gun. And now terrible things are happening in your neighborhood because people who don't give a shit about it making you nervous are still doing things to make you nervous. You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? Like where are you at? Like that, and I'm not trying to like, me, but just for the people, like I'm not trying to spit out like Republican talking points of like, what are you gonna do when the police are gone and you don't have a gun? Like I'm genuinely asking. Like that makes me nervous for other people's safety, and that's gonna
Yeah.
lead to worse shit when people feel like they don't have any options.
Yes.
When they feel like they're backed into a corner, they don't have any options, and now their family's in trouble or they need something and they can't get it. People do stupid shit.
Oh yeah. I think the pandemic has really, I mean, case in point right there. The things that people have done under the auspices of danger during the pandemic, I think illustrate
Right.
that pretty decently.
Right.
And I think anybody that has, if they want a good example of what it is like to have a decent discussion slash argument, try to play with the contradictions of the Constitution and the amendments therein, should watch that scene of Lincoln, Daniel Day-Lewis,
Yes.
explaining to his
Yes.
cabinet about the struggles that he has trying to pass the 13th Amendment, and
Yes.
the whole thing with declaring martial law, and the fact that he can't actually say that the Confederacy was a separate nation, and that, but at the same time, I mean, that whole scene where he does that monologue is so powerful and illustrates the
Incredible.
complexity of our Constitution. And
Right.
to if you think that you can fight 2A by saying guns are bad and they shouldn't have them because, according to Joe Biden, it's the founding fathers. George Washington knew that no one would ever need a semi-automatic rifle. It's like,
Yeah.
nobody. That was a nonsensical argument. I mean, if you're playing with the foundational rules of our entire society and having an arbitrary discussion or an arbitrary, or what's the word, anecdotal cases to try to fight against something so foundational, you really need to flush out your argument and explain these things, because otherwise I'm going to tell you to hit the bricks and take a walk and don't touch my rights.
Right.
But
Because
none of those conversations are happening.
if all it takes is someone like me spending 5 minutes outside on my porch to destroy something that you spent, that however many people work for you spent all this time crafting to, like, that's supposed to be this masterful thing that you spit out in 2 seconds. It took me 5 minutes to explain why that doesn't work. I don't have a degree. I'm not a constitutional lawyer. If you're talking about someone who's a legitimate, actual constitutional lawyer, you're not going to win that argument. Like, that doesn't matter. It doesn't matter how many people you have on the Supreme Court, especially now that the ratio is not skewed in your favor. That's
Yeah, right.
not going to work like that. So
Old
it's
Clarence Thomas out. He's chomping at the bit to get a hold of some of these lower court rulings.
yeah.
I'm very excited about
Well,
the future.
you've got decades of writing from Antonin and Scalia that are hammering in on the Second Amendment.
Yeah.
So I don't know how, when you have someone who was so respected on the Supreme Court for so long, who was just on the Supreme Court, and he just wrote all this stuff about modern viewings of the Second Amendment and interpretations. Like, what are you gonna do about that? He was on the fucking Supreme Court. Like, what are you gonna do with that?
Yep.
That that seems like pretty solid evidence. And at this point, all this discussion about the NRA and all these NRA backed bills. The NRA just filed for bankruptcy in one of these states.
Yeah,
Like the
they're not
NRA
doing so well.
no longer even they are barely existent. Like they
Yep.
are barely relevant at all in the discussion of, especially the discussion of the Second Amendment.
Oh
They're
yeah, they
in
don't need to
discussion
exist
of
as
no,
far as the Second Amendment goes.
no,
Anybody that brings up the NRA in some kind of gun control topic,
fucking
you
right.
should just disregard what they're about to say, because they obviously aren't talking about the foundational principles of the Second Amendment.
No, because the people who are the true defenders of the Second Amendment now, you're going to find on Instagram, not on NRA.com or on some fucking NRA
Right.
lobby list. Like those are not the real influencers of the Second Amendment. That's not anymore. It's now like everything, it's a culture war. Like this is now convincing people, everyday people, that firearms are not a bad thing, by
Yeah.
getting people like your wife and my wife out there in fucking plate carriers and shooting AR-15 so that their friends and their family can see, oh, this is not scary, because my little dainty daughter, who takes care of animals or stays home and bakes cakes, is out there doing these things, so it can't be that bad. Their husbands can't really be that scary and fucking paranoid and whatever for doing all these things. Like it's
But yeah, it's definitely an uphill battle, because we've got generations at this point of misunderstanding or misconception to battle against. And it's hard, man. It's hard, especially with as much coverage as any shooting has these days, or the violence in inner cities. And like it's a hard uphill fight. But it's almost not even about guns, because if you think a chemical reaction that throws a piece of lead or brass out of a barrel is the stopping point for firearms, you're kidding yourself. I mean, and it's not going to be that long into the future where the AR-15 is an outdated, relic that nobody cares about. It's because you can't stop progress, and then it's going to be a different type of weapon that we'll be arguing about. I don't know what it is, but time will tell, and there will always be something at that point, because the argument really isn't about guns. It boils down to a citizen's right to defend themselves, period. And from all enemies, foreign and domestic. It's right there.
Yeah. And that's like, no, I think that's a really good point. One of the better points that I've seen on the Second Amendment is people being correct with their verbiage, and not
nomenclature is key.
Right, and not using like tyrannical government as like just a blanket justification for like everything, like shotgun and like a pistol and like things like this. Like these things have different purposes, you know what I'm saying? Like the pistol that I carry every day is for personal defense. Like that's for me to protect myself. That is why I have that. That's why I carry it. That's exactly what it exists for. My AR-15 is not for everyday personal defense. That's not why I have it. Like that's what I'm saying? It's not even really for home defense. Like I'm likely to use my pistol way before I'm going to bust out my fucking AR. You know what I'm saying?
Yep.
So, you know what I'm saying? If I had a shotgun, I'm going to use that instead. Like these things are for different reasons, And the last thing I feel like I need to do is justify why I own anything that I own. But in an everyday conversation of like talking to people, friends and family, like a tyrannical government wouldn't be the reason that I say I own my Glock. That wouldn't be the justification that I give. That would be the justification that I might give for my AR-15, or some crazy shit popping off if I need to, I don't know, to help to lock down my neighborhood or something. Like there's any number of reasons, If the world is when I need to hunt tomorrow, I'm going to use my AR-15, not my pistol,
Yep.
So but that just speaks to the culture war aspect of it, that people can be precise with their language and knowing what they're talking about, and it's a sure sign of someone who doesn't, of a sure NRA, or that they're like, fuck the government, pry it from my cold dead hands, like my double barrel shotgun, So
I would like to get a double barrel one day. They're really fun.
Has been just just got a double barrel shotgun. I was like,
Is it
that's
an over under or side by side?
I think it's a side by side, which is
Okay,
pretty funny, dude.
there you
It's like
go.
the only person I know with a double barrel. And then he was talking about going shooting. He was like, yeah, he's like, we'll just do like some clays. And he was like, I can't do any like that tactical stuff. And I was like, that's where you're wrong. I was like, I think the coolest thing would be for you to do tactical stuff with this double barrel. Like if you could get like a sub 2 second reload on a double barrel shotgun, like to fire both shots and then empty them, reload, and fire off within 2 seconds, that's fucking skill, bro. Like that's mad
That's
skills.
that would be tough. Like watching
Yes,
the clock go, boom,
that's what I'm saying.
done.
That
Wow.
would get you clout as fuck.
Yeah, that'd be tough. Man,
That's what
challenge accepted,
that's
Donovan.
seriously technical skill. Yeah, no, I think that would be mad impressive if you were out on a range and you could fucking pow pow chop, 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 pow pow. That's
Yeah,
sick.
man, that would be. You need to have everything in line, and you need to have that down to muscle memory. Just
Yeah,
boom, boom. That'd be
exactly.
tough.
I'd like to see that shit.
Me too. I'm gonna search some YouTube videos about that later tonight. I'm sure there's some out there.
Yes. One of
Double
the
barrel shotgun fast reload.
I'm
Google.
sure there is. Yeah, I haven't looked at it, but I'm sure there is. One of the things I want to talk to you about. So I watched a bunch of movies this week, right?
Word.
Per your recommendation, actually. So I watched Godzilla King of Monsters, and I also watched Kong Skull Island, right?
Ooh, yeah.
Okay, so
Where you at?
Kong Skull Island is way better than Godzilla. Like
Yes,
way better than Godzilla.
I
Like
agree.
Kong Skull Island is actually a legitimately good movie,
Mm-hmm.
which I
And Brie
didn't.
Larson doesn't screw it up.
That's what I'm saying. I fucking hate Brie Larson. She still don't fuck it up. Yeah, I think the only
Yep.
thing I like Brie Larson is in Room. You ever seen Room?
I haven't seen that.
Room is fucked up, bro. Room is
I've seen
Brie
the trailer
Larson.
for it, I think,
Yeah,
but
dark,
yeah,
bro. It's good.
dark.
Um, but yeah, so Kong Skull Island was actually good. I watched it at work, and then Jordan and I are watching it here. It's that good that I was willing
Yeah,
to watch it the second time. The
yeah,
action is good, and it's done well.
yeah. Samuel
Godzilla,
L. Jackson is a badass in that movie.
yes,
He
fucking
he is
crazy.
great. Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, he's great. John Goodman's character is pretty all right. I feel like it was a little empty to me, his character, but overall, I think he played his role and everything. But
yes.
that's good that
I
you have the tie-in though, because you do like out of all the other Godzilla movies, you don't really need to watch any of them if you're going to watch Godzilla vs Kong. You
yeah,
need to watch Skull Island though.
yeah. So that one was sick. King of Monsters was like almost too much. Um,
A lot.
there's just so much happening with the three-headed dragon, which okay, so the three-headed dragon breathing lightning was pretty cool.
Oh
Like
yeah.
the lightning dragon is really sick. When I was telling Jordan about all this stuff, I don't know any of the names of the monsters because partially because I don't give a fuck, partially because they're just random shit that they're making up, and I don't know what they are. And
Oh,
so
these are characters that have been in the Godzilla, like the original
yeah,
Japanese
yeah,
Godzilla universe for decades at this point,
right. But
including
that
Mega Godzilla.
But because I'm not a Godzilla dude, I'm not committed to it, so I don't know what their names are. So when I'm telling
Yep.
her, I was like, so guys, so I know like Mothra, and like some of the basics. And so I was telling her, I'm like, yeah, so Godzilla is like fighting the lightning dragon, and then the lava pterodactyl comes in and Mothra fights the lava pterodactyl, and it stabs the lava pterodactyl, and then it explodes into space dust on top of Godzilla, and Godzilla wakes back up to fight the lightning dragon again, and she's just fucking dying. And I'm like, I know, but it was
You're
kind
not wrong
of,
for saying that, though. I mean, that's definitely what happened, and that's a great
yes,
way to. That's probably why they have such crazy names, is so that you don't have to say that because it sounds ridiculous.
yeah, it was pretty funny though.
Oh,
Uh, so yeah, that one I almost felt like was too much. There's so much going on, so many different monsters, and then, uh, but the ending was cool. Like the very, very, very end. Not like
mhm.
it was good when it ended, but that the ending was Godzilla standing in like the death circle of Boston, just like kind of with the sun behind him, and then Kong Skull Island ended the same way. Like so
Yep.
that was cool. I liked that.
Direct tie-in.
Yeah, and I consume so much content and like media and everything that if I saw both of those movies in the theaters, I would not have remembered that they ended the same way.
Oh
That's
yeah.
I don't have the no core details and things like that. I'm a person that if we're gonna go and see an installment of a series, I probably got to watch the first ones that day before we go, just so that I
Yep.
know everything that's happening, or else I'm gonna miss shit. I'm not gonna enjoy the movie as much just because, and I'm not gonna be like this was gay, but I'm just not gonna enjoy it as much because I'm not gonna get everything that's in there.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
Because you're missing that. If you unless you have that direct tie-in with the continuation of the
it's,
story arc, you're getting
it's
an episode that doesn't mean anything.
exactly,
Yeah.
exactly,
It's
yeah,
commitment, bro. You got to watch all of them motherfuckers. Otherwise, none of them make sense.
yeah. But it was worth that. So I'm gonna watch Godzilla versus King Kong this week before we record again, so that we
Okay.
can talk about, because you said that one was arguably maybe the worst of all of them, but
Yeah.
well,
Yeah. Arguably, I think. Yeah.
I think one of the worst things about Godzilla is the people. Like the people characters are not good. They're
Yeah.
just not. Acting is not good. The people themselves are not good. The character development is not good. Like it's all bad. It's
Oh
it's
yeah.
all bad.
That's one of the things I actually like about it because that's if you started to have like a bunch of great acting, that would throw off the entire franchise because the
Yeah,
nostalgia that I had as a kid over at my Japanese immigrant buddy's house in a tree house watching these old Godzilla movies on a 13-inch black and white TV,
yeah.
you know, it's like I would miss that nostalgia if it was too good. I can't have that.
Well, um, and they're so like quick to kill people off that you almost don't want to invest too much time in anybody, because it's just the
Yep.
moment you think someone's gonna get away, they get fucking stepped on, or like someone
Yep.
kills by a
Correct.
super way, and you're like, oh shit, there he goes. Like I was just starting to like this motherfucker, and now he's dead. So
Oh,
that should happen.
especially in Skull Island.
Yeah,
Yeah.
he's just smacking people, dude. He's eating people out of helicopters and shit. And you're like, well, there goes that guy. I'm like, that was kind of cool.
I thought he
Yeah.
was going to be cool.
Jordan asked me before we watched it, she's like, so does King Kong like eat people or what? And I was like, he does. I was like, but it's almost just like a thing that happens. I was like, it's not like he doesn't like that's not his diet. I'm like, but he also has no qualms about eating a person. Like
Yep.
he'll totally
Just
do
another
it.
way to kill thing.
Bucky, it's just a thing that's smaller than him. Yeah, he's like, I'll just eat it.
Yep.
That fucking octopus that he fights when he's just like, I'm gonna take this bitch with me so I can eat more of it later. Like savage. King Kong is a savage.
He is, dude. He is. Yeah, I think you're going to like the Godzilla versus Kong. It's
Um
it's far and above probably the worst one, but that's just mostly because it's so much more over the top, even than King of Monsters. Because you
no,
start to get into Hollow Earth stuff, and it's like, whoa,
right. Because they kind of dip their toes in it. And
Yep.
then in King of Monsters, yeah, when they're like, we found Godzilla's home inside of the planet, like, like we went in there and detonated a nuclear bomb to revive Godzilla, but we gave him too much radiation, so he's going to explode when he comes back up to the surface. The whole thing, the entire thing is so much.
It's so good. Yeah, and
You just keep handing you. This is exactly what it's like. Jordan has told me the story a million times. When she was growing up and her sister would go to the grocery store with her dad, he would take like fart in the aisle and then would take things off the shelf and just fill their arms with random items off of the shelves and just run. And that's kind of like what watching that Godzilla movie is like. Is they just keep handing you things off of the shelf and they're like, here, take this, hold this, grab onto this real quick, hold this. And you're just at the end, you're like, I don't understand what to do with all of this. But then they kill everyone with Godzilla and they just go, fuck it, doesn't matter anyway. And they just knock everything out of your hands.
That's a perfect analogy.
Yeah, that's what
Nailed
that
it. Oh, that's perfect, man. I convinced a buddy of mine at work to watch Boondock Saints for the first time this week.
Oh,
Surprise, surprise, not a fan. He said
what?
he's not a fan. Yeah. Yep.
Did you fire him? You
No.
gotta.
He's too clutch, bro. I like this dude. He's a big
You
supporter of the
got-
show too, so I can't say that. But I did give him a hard time. But I said at least when I'm throwing around Boondock Saints lines throughout the day, which is usually at least 3 or 4 days a week,
Yeah.
he'll actually have a contextual understanding of where it comes from and
Yeah.
the meaning behind what I'm saying.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think he was just more or less not into like the actiony, gory aspect of it. But which
It
is
took
funny because
me.
he also like he turned me on to this movie called Ink, which I have to watch. It's an independent film that you can watch, I think, on Amazon Prime. But it's
Yeah.
all about like these creatures that live amongst us, really, kind of like in another realm. But like they're responsible for giving everybody good dreams and nightmares. And like this one up and coming dude wants to like be a new nightmare and see like kidnap some little kid, and it's like this super trippy Donnie Darko style, like really
Mm,
dark horror movie, suspense thriller probably. But the trailer's
like a
great. Highly recommend checking out the trailer. That'll
deal.
convince you whether you'll probably like it or not. But I'm gonna
Yeah.
try to get that in probably tomorrow.
I'm gonna go to work tomorrow morning, so maybe I'll watch it while I'm at work.
It looked pretty crazy.
Yeah.
But I'm all
Um,
about the movies these days, bro. You brought me back into that lifestyle.
we're out here.
It's good.
Um, one thing else that I wanted to talk to you about, more content that I'm consuming, these comics. Have I talked to you about these already?
Which
I kind of
those
think
ones you brought over last time?
me a little bit. The
Yeah,
Sun Your comics, and I think that I brought them up last week a little bit, but these. Oh, I brought them in so you could look at them, and I was telling you about them, but I don't think
those
I
are the
talked
same
about it.
ones.
Yeah, these are the same ones that this. I just finished the third one today, and so I'm going to bring them into work for new Dan for him to peep, uh, because he gave me an omnibus of the boys.
Yeah,
Uh, yeah, and so I have been. Have you ever read that before, or just watched the show?
just watched it. We actually just finished the second season last
So,
week. I want to say or the week before.
as in most things, the book is like way better than the show, obviously. I'm like halfway through this first omnibus, but it's also like way darker than the show. Like
Ooh,
way darker. Um,
'cause I feel like
like
they probably went about as dark and gruesome as you possibly
dark,
could for
yeah,
television on the show.
dark if you could. But yeah, no, it's like really dark. Like when Starlight first gets to the seven, and the Deep like tries to like he like whips his dick out or something like that. And then so in the book, it's the Deep, Black Noir, um, A Train, and Homelander that all do it like all at the same time. They're all just like, if you want to be in the seven, like you got to get down and like do work on all of us. Yeah.
Wow.
And then like the butcher, obviously spoilers for anybody who's fucking whatever, but um, Billy Butcher, in the show, like his wife has the kid with Homelander. So in the book, she was raped by Homelander and didn't say anything about it, and became pregnant and gave birth to the baby at night, and it killed her. Um, and Butcher had to kill the baby with like a
Oh,
fucking
bro,
lamp, bro. Yes, I'm
that is dark.
telling. Yes, and the whole book is like this. Yeah, the whole everything. So it's an omnibus, So I think it's like 10 issues stacked into one book. So I'm like halfway through them. It's fucked up. It's
Man,
super dark. Uh,
what's
it's really
the chick's the evil chick's name? She's like 1 billion years old or whatever. Oh my gosh, not remembering her name now. Ends up being a Nazi in the show.
yeah.
Oh,
Fucking
Stormfront.
yeah,
Stormfront.
yeah.
Yeah. Has she made an appearance in the comics yet?
Not yet. No.
Okay. I'm curious if they'll keep that same story, like if that was in
Yeah,
the
I'm not
books or
sure.
if they kind of contextualized it a little bit. I'll be
Yeah.
curious.
Dan did tell me that he watched the show and that he enjoyed it for what it was, but that it was obviously much different than the book. And
Yeah.
this did not at all make me not enjoy the show. The show is still very good, but this is like a whole nother. If you didn't like, for anybody watching this now, if the boys the show was like almost too much for you, then definitely don't read the comic. But if that was right up your alley and you're into that type of shit, I would definitely recommend the comic because it's fucking way better. Um, like they started the group started in the comic, the actual group, the boys start by taking out smaller groups of superheroes, like lesser names in groups. Like the first group is called the Kid Kicks, and so they start spying on them and just get all this blackmail, like find them at this brothel. Where they're all like switching rooms, like they're all in individual rooms, and someone just like switch, and they all get out and just run into a different room, and like that's how they're introduced to this group of people. And then yeah, so then they start spying on them and getting all this blackmail, individual horrible things that they're doing. Oh, it's dark as
Oh
fuck.
man,
And so then they
that's
send
cool.
all of it to the Kid Kicks, and they're like, okay, well, um, this is everything that we have, and you have 2 hours or whatever to decide which one of you is going to take the blame, which one of you is going to have their dirty laundry aired out, or else we're just going to blow up everybody. And so they like bug their headquarters, so they're listening to them, just spiral and try and decide who they're going to sell out. Oh, it's really fucking good, bro. Yeah,
That's
it's
great.
excellent. I'm a huge fan. It's very good. I would recommend it to anybody who's into that type of shit. I'll bring that. I told you I have that book in my truck. It's just in my truck all the time. I read it at lunch, and so I have to go read in my truck. It's too dark. I could never read that at work. So yeah, I go out in my truck and I just sit there after I'm done eating and I just read for
Yeah.
like 20 minutes.
Yeah,
But
can't bring that inside. Come on now.
yeah, no,
That's too funny.
so no, it's very good though.
Well, very
But
nice.
yeah, these ones are kind of up that alley. They're from Heavy Metal Comics, which is well known for just being like dark comics. And so these ones, this guy, his son. Let me find out what his name. They're from Norway, so his name is
Johan
Kveldulf
Svensson.
Kveldulf Bjalfsson is what his name is. Uh,
Word.
yeah, and
Strong
his
name.
and
My
his son
people right there.
was taken as a ward of the king, and so he chops his leg off and sacrifices it to a forest god so that he can try and get his son back. And in exchange for his leg, he's given this pelt that bonds with him, so he's not able to take it off, and it turns him into a werewolf. And so he's able
Yeah.
to turn into a werewolf and just go fucking savage mode. And the king finds out that he's coming for him, and so he sends a group of assassins to go and try and kill him. And so this comic is essentially all these different battles with the assassin. And there's this dope guy. This is my favorite dude, this
Oh
masked
yeah.
bard that's here. Yeah, that's my guy. He is playing all these different instruments, and when the battles are happening, he'll just chill up in a tree and just like play bongos or some shit like to the battle. It's amazing. I'm a huge fan. Yeah, and one of the
Every good
first.
warrior needs a good bard to go with
Yeah,
him.
exactly.
How are you supposed to have your theme music if in the midst of battle?
Yeah. And the bard is covered in cloth, like just in different colored like patches and things like that. It's just all,
Yeah.
it's really cool. He's super cool looking. I'm a
He's got
huge fan.
that super cool like mask thing that he wears, right? I remember
Yes.
seeing that. He was like, I think
And
when I saw him, he was chilling up in a tree.
yes, yeah, exactly. And the mask will change shape and stuff too. Like it will show different expressions. It's very cool. It's very, very cool. Um, the first big battle scene is with the assassins is not even illustrated. It's just 4 pages of text in the back of the second issue. It's fucking really cool. I love the
That's
way
awesome.
they're doing it. Well, which makes you think like because it's still being put out right now, so it's just coming every month in the mail. Um, and so when that happens, you think like, oh, maybe all of the battles are going to be like this. Like they're just going to be really detailed, like which I don't hate at all. Like it was so detailed that I was a really big fan. Like specific directions of swipes and strikes and stuff like that. Like very specific. But then the whole third issue is a battle with one of the assassins, and so it's just depends on how they're doing it. It's really
That's
cool.
awesome.
Show you some of the
We need to
some
find us a graphic artist so we could produce some comics. Oh yeah,
yeah.
swipey.
Oh, and there's
Oh,
the
yeah, there's
bar.
the bard. Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's the same exact page that you showed me that I thumbed through the other day. Because I
Yeah.
remember I remember the paw going right through the chest. was like,
Yeah,
oh, that's over. That's
the
game over
art
right there.
is absolutely excellent. Yeah, huge fan.
There you go. All right, we'll start brainstorming for our first Salt of the Street brand comic because
Yes,
that would be super dope.
and it's done by Dylan Sprouse, who of course I'm a huge fan. That is the brother of Jughead Jones. Yeah, the twin brother of Jughead Jones. So I'm just supporting
Of
these
course
guys
it
on
is.
all kinds of different levels.
Oh, that's great. I just noticed when I really laugh real hard, my forehead vein pops out hardcore on the video. Look at that.
Just
Oh,
growing
God.
out front,
Yeah.
just old school emo bangs in
Yep.
front of one of your eyes, you know.
Oh, that's
You got to
great.
work harder. You're gonna have to grow it out if you want to do emo side bangs.
Yeah. I don't know. I don't know if I need to go that route. You know, I don't need to
Did
go
it?
that hard.
Did anyone dress like that when you were in school? Was that a thing? Like with the proper like
I don't think so. I don't
no,
think so. I mean, because I think
not too
during
many
my
costumes
time,
there.
like the emo kids weren't really emo kids yet. They were still evolving into what we know now as the emo kid. You know, I still had goths when I was in high school. You know
Yeah,
what I mean? And you got to remember, massive age gap here. You know, it's
right.
different.
So with more nail polish and clothing than like hairstyles and shit.
Yeah, a lot of black clothing with a lot of chains involved.
Yeah.
You know, and like gothic, you know, religious artifacts around the neck, you know, stuff like that. That's mostly what I dealt with. And even then it was like a small group of kids that there wasn't very many of them. There was probably like 5 or 6 in my high school.
Oh, dude, when I was in school, emo kid was like a whole that was like clique. It was like a whole group of people that were emo kids. Like, yeah, it was a big deal. It was a whole thing.
It's funny
Um,
how emo kids are so they're so like depressed and sad and they always wanted to be alone, but they always needed emo friends,
yes,
right?
yeah,
You
and
always got to have emo
that's
friends.
how you could tell like the real, there was a couple of like this sounds horrible, but there was a couple of like real like hardcore emo kids, like the kids like actually cut themselves and shit that like really did have like emotional problems that really were emo kids that would
Yeah.
separate themselves almost on like a hierarchy of these other kids that were emo kids are like they're not even fucking emo, like they don't even cut themselves or anything. Like I heard that numerous times as like that person doesn't even cut themselves, like they're not really emo, which is like only when
That's
you're
right out of
13 does
South
that
Park,
type of
dude.
thing make sense. You know that like you're not real because you're not fucking doing self harm. Like
Oh my
only when you're
god.
13 does that type of shit make sense. But that's yeah.
Those
I
are the
remember
ones you got to watch out for.
when I was in the sixth grade, I had I was kind of emo. Like I was definitely in that vein. I was listening to like alternative music, like light alternative music, like Fall Out Boy and like things like that. My Chemical Romance, was like super
Oh
popular
yeah.
at the time. Yeah, so like things like that.
I'll
And
still
I
throw
was
that Black Parade album on from time to
oh
time.
sure
It's
for sure.
and especially after like 10 years later, you listen to it like, man, this was actually really good.
It's
This guy
slap.
had some serious problems, but
Yes.
it manifested
Yeah, they're
itself in
just
great
dirt.
music.
Yes. Um, and I would, I would like buy clothes at Hot Topic, and I had like a Naruto jacket that I would wear, and
Ooh.
I had like headband and shit, and but then once I got into junior high, and there was like the hierarchy of emo ness, I was like, this is not for me. Like this is not the game that I'm trying to be in. Like I'm not.
I do not have that commitment.
No,
I
this
just
ain't
like the clothes and the music, guys. I thought this was what we were doing.
exactly, exactly. I thought that we were just in this because we were emotional. You know what I'm saying? Not because we
Yeah.
were fucked up. But I was fucked up. I just didn't know it. So I
Yeah,
guess
right.
we get.
That's
So,
funny. Yeah, we had like a lot of grunge still when I was still in high school,
yes,
like that. But it was like the remnants of grunge. It was the people that were basically worshiping the altar of Kurt Cobain
right.
because he had already killed himself. It's
Like
like,
hallowed temples of grunge music that were still
oh yeah,
showing up.
yeah, and it was still. I
Yeah,
mean, it was because that music was still solid. It was still coming direct out of Seattle for the most part, and so it was like
yeah.
that was just your home team. Home team, home turf.
The
A lot
days.
of plaid and ripped up blue jeans.
Yeah.
I think I went to a Halloween party once as like a grunge kid, and this was like as an adult. I think I was in the Coast Guard when we did this, and all I did was like go in my closet and pull out my rattiest pair of jeans that I had, and then of course I had like 6 plaid shirts already. It was the best costume ever,
That's the
other
best.
than my Shaggy Scooby Doo costume. That's legit.
That was clutch. That's
Yeah.
Carolina said for her birthday, like she wants everyone to cosplay. You know what I'm saying? So I'm like, what am I gonna cosplay? Like, what am I gonna cosplay? I'm like, oh, I'm gonna be an operator from Rainbow Six Siege because all I gotta do is just bust out all my kit and I'll be fucking good to
Yeah.
go.
Dude, I think Jake's pulled that out multiple times over the
Yeah,
last few years because he's done. I know he's done that multiple times. He's like, well,
worth it.
I got it. Why
Yeah.
not?
Well, and that's like the last time or when we went out for my birthday when you and Carolina were sick, but it was me and Jordan and Jake and Morgan. Um, and
Oh
I
my god, yeah, because we had the Rona.
Right, right. And I had like just started to get my carrier together and like just started to get my belt together and I had a black hat on and they were like, you look like a cop. I was like,
You look
well,
like a cop.
that's the opposite of what I want to look like. And I was like, I definitely don't want to look like a cop. So that's when I started to put some more stuff on there to make me look a little bit less. But that's an easy one right there, man. To just be a plainclothes police officer.
Oh my god.
Just make sure that Officer Brian isn't there so I don't get arrested or no shit. But
I've told you about that time I got hemmed up by some plainclothes cops, right?
really,
Yeah, when I lived in Long Island, and they like
oh,
thought
when
I
you
was
were,
doing drug dealer and shit
yes, yeah,
on the most epic first date ever.
yes,
Yeah, that was a great night. It went nowhere. I wonder why.
so weird.
It is.
That's really fun.
Oh yeah, good times. Good times. Oh, so what's the plan for the rest of the weekend? You going into work tomorrow a little bit?
Yeah, we'll go into work tomorrow for a little bit. Jordan is delivering 2 cakes tomorrow.
Ooh.
And my little cousin Levi's birthday party is tomorrow, so she did a Nerf themed cake for him. He is like crazy into Nerf guns. Uh,
Yeah.
this kid, man, I've gone out there and like had Nerf battles with him in the backyard, and we'll be like 30 yards or so from each other, and he's able to like nail me with the Nerf gun, bro. It's yeah,
Money.
and you know how non-accurate they are, but he just knows them well enough that he's like, oh, I just gotta adjust it. Got him.
Yep.
Yeah,
I
knows
know how
all the
much this is
and
gonna
every
fall. High arc and rainbow shot. Ping. Hit
exactly.
you at 20
Yeah.
yards.
Yeah, no, so he set me up with a pistol and a rifle and put a whole bunch of bullets in my pocket and was like, "Here you go, man. Like, good luck." And I was like, "Jesus Christ." So,
Good
yeah,
luck,
so
old man. I'm about to smoke you.
yeah, exactly. So there, all his older brother and shit is like, "I don't want to fucking play with you. Like, I'm not doing this. Like David's like 16 years old now, so he's like, "There's no way I'm playing with my little brother, in the backyard."
Oh,
Oh, my cousins are fucking grown, so they're like, I'm not doing that with you. I'm the baby of the cousins, so I'm the youngest of like all of my cousins and everything. So they're like, fucking Donovan, get your ass out there, young man, run around with this fucking kid. Like, no way, dude, I'm old now too. Like that it doesn't work that way anymore.
I
So
got a 2-year-old, bro. I'm not young. Come on now.
yeah. No, it was fun though. So yeah, they're doing laser tag tomorrow, but it's like right during Dax's nap, so we're
Oh
gonna
yeah.
miss it. But she's dropping off the cake in the morning, so and then she did like a little smash cake. Do you know what a smash cake is? Um,
We've been through
smash
this
cake
once
is
before.
it's like a baby cake.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah,
so
like the
it's,
individuals, single
it's just
serve,
the
basically.
baby, yeah, so they can just do whatever they want. Yeah, so there's a
Yeah.
children's show called Coco Melon. Um, that's actually like a network of different shows, and so this is a Coco Melon themed smash cake that
Ooh.
looks really cute. It's like a watermelon with a little face on it, with like
Oh,
little.
that's awesome.
I don't know. Kids shows are weird. Dax watches a show. This is the baby show of the week. He watches a show called Word Party, um, which he's been
Sounds
like.
educational.
Yeah, it is. That's what Jordan tells me. She's like, it's good for him. Like this show is actually good for him. We bought him a Hulk today. He's been super into the Hulk lately, so we got him a
Yeah.
Hulk. He goes, oh, and he wants to go Hulk smash. Yeah, so it's really fun. So we got him Hulk today. That's like of that same line of Captain America and Iron Man and Black Panther. Like they're all the same line of toys. So we got him another one. He was jazzed on it.
Got to get some
But
of them old school Captain America comics for him because the new ones are a little too woke. Next thing you
Yeah,
know,
exactly.
he's gonna be like, "Dad, you're a bad person because
You're a terrible
you
person.
like the Red Skull."
Yeah. But what the
Why
fuck
is
is
my dad telling me to do all the same things that Red Skull's telling me to do? I don't get it.
it's so random. Did you ever like? Did Marvel just got Ta-Nehisi Coates to do it just because it's woke time? Like that's it. That's just
Yeah,
it's just
yeah,
2021. That's just what they're doing.
yeah. Well, they're revamping all the
Right.
old comics, and they're all being super progressive with how they're setting up these, the characters and giving them, like there's LGBT2, there's an LGBT character in there. I mean, they're just hitting all the
Yeah.
little, making sure that they're all diverse enough or whatever their coded language is
Yeah.
to try to reach a new audience, I think.
And I remember when that first started happening, when they like relaunched the Marvel Universe, and many, I'm not even going to say many, all of the comic book people that I spoke to, like the people that actually read comic books, their beef was not with the progressive values because most of those people are pretty progressive because they've been shat on most of their lives. So they're pretty empathetic to like terrible circumstances and people just
Oh yeah.
wanting the best for themselves. But like for the most part, they're they're leaning in that direction. So the problem wasn't with the progressive ideology; it was with fucking
Mm-mm.
with characters they had loved for decades. There's nothing
Yes.
wrong with doing those things if you make a character that this fits with their storyline. But you can't just jam these characteristics, being trans, being gay, all these things, just jam it into a character that already exists with 50 years of continuity behind it.
Oh yeah.
It it's that's not only does it not work for the fan base, that's not a good way to make a story. You know,
Yeah. And
so
that's what the real problem is. It's bad storytelling. It's the pure lack of creativity, because every one of these characters was made out of just this undying love from Stan Lee and his
right,
closest associates and things like
Jack
that
Kirby,
were built
yeah,
on over decades. You can't just you, Nobody can create new things anymore. It's really sad that we have to redo Captain America because they can't come up with a new character that's just as good. And
right.
that's and so they just rebrand these things, and then they just go with the whatever the strongest pop culture influence is, which right now is coming from the progressive wing, and it is
Well,
what it is, and that's fine.
it's not like it can't be done. Like a couple of years ago, I was reading a comic book that was maybe the New Avengers or the Young Avengers, and one of those characters, his name was fucking like Iron Patriot or some shit like that. Even though that's not because that's like either way. His character, his backstory was that his grandfather, he was black, and his backstory was that his grandfather was the actual original Captain America. And before the government turned Steve Rogers into Captain America, they tested the serum on a black dude, which fucking of course makes sense if it's 19 fucking 60, 1950, whatever, or 1940 if it's so. It makes sense that that's at least historically that they would have done something like that. So
Yeah.
like that's a story that's fitting. Like this person was the original Captain America and has been forgotten in time because he's black. And when they did it to him, nobody cared about black people. And then Steve Rogers became prominent, and that's all that anybody cares about. That's a very good story. That's a
Yeah.
fucking very good story. I was talking to Jordan's stepdad late the other day, and he's like the biggest comic book guy I know. And he was like, one of the best things, the best, more progressive stories you could do is do a new telling of Batman as a black dude. He's like, the story of Batman as a black dude writes itself. Like it
Hard
absolutely
yes.
writes itself for him to be fighting inner city crime. You could even make it like he even comes from the slums of Gotham and turned himself into a self-made billionaire. You know what I'm saying? And when they were at the theater, his family, his parents saved up for fucking 5 years to get enough money to get tickets to go to the fucking show, and they get murdered the one time that they finally have enough money to go to the theater. That's an amazing story. That's fucking amazing. Writes itself,
Like
dude.
that writes itself.
Writes itself. Years of Batman that you have by changing one thing. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like, that's so simple. That gives you an entirely new take on this amazing character that people love endlessly. You know,
Yeah.
like you don't have to ham fist it into shit. It's just it's not good. Like it's
Have you watched any of the Falcon and Winter Soldier series that's coming out on Disney Plus?
I not.
Okay, because that whole story about the Tuskegee Airmen era, Captain America, they introduced a concept like that in the second episode, and right after that, they kind of got into a weird, very off-putting scene with the cops and because the whole story is basically oh crap, what's his name, the Falcon,
Yeah.
his like name in the show. I can't remember what it is, but it's him and then Bucky out there. They're having an argument after just talking to this elderly black guy who was essentially he was one of the first super soldier experiments, and they were running around during World War II and like before that, just being tested and stuff like that. But then nobody gives him any recognition. They just hide him. He's living in a slum somewhere, all this stuff. But so I'm curious. I wonder if they're gonna maybe they'll kind of reach into that. I'm not sure. It was, but
Well, supposedly in that series, in the Falcon and the Winter Soldier, they're supposed to introduce like four new, projects that they're doing, like shows and movies. So I wouldn't be surprised if, a Young Avengers was one of those things, and that would
oh
be a
yeah,
decent way to introduce one of those characters. Because most of the
I
Young
think
Avengers are like people modeling themselves after original superheroes.
Mhm.
So
Yeah, I
not
mean,
not
see, like,
that.
why aren't they making those movies? It's like and I'm glad that they're going to be going that direction.
Yeah.
Because they do need to come up with some new stuff, man. We can't. I don't know if I could put up with another Spider-Man reboot, dude. I I'm all out if that happens. I'm done. All right.
Yeah.
I found my Spider-Man. I can't do another three characters. I just
It's tough.
if I go through another Spider-Man origin story, I'm gonna lose it.
That's the thing is it's been so soon. In my lifetime, we've had like four different Spider-Mans, which is too many. That's too many for that
Yep.
short of period of time. So
Yeah. And hopefully, I would like to see some new stuff, man. I would really like to. Really quick side note before I forget.
yes,
We're talking about the boys, Billy Butcher.
yes,
Um, I I totally forgot about this, but we were watching the Lord of the Rings: Return of the King extended edition last night. Only fell asleep one time, and it was like
nice.
an hour before the end. Um, but I forget that like the actor that plays Billy Butcher is also in Lord of the Rings. He's a part of like the Rohirrim Riders. Shows
Yes,
up in Twin Towers or Two
yes,
Towers and Return of the King. And we're
yes.
just looking at it. We're like, oh my God, I can't believe he looks so young and pretty. And now you look at him, he's
That's
like
really cool.
grizzled old Billy Butcher. Drops
That's
the see you next Tuesday every other second.
yes.
Probably why he's my favorite character. I
It
love.
feels like that in the comics too.
Oh, that's awesome. I'm glad they stayed true there.
Yeah, he's still British.
He's still British. Oh man. Yeah, good stuff. Good stuff.
Okay. Was there anything else that you want to tack into this doubleheader here?
Nope. Other than the fact that I dropped that scene with Lincoln, I'm gonna put on Lincoln again at some point tonight because that movie. I think I'm gonna do like a series of. I'll do it offline, but I want to do like a pilot movie show where I just talk about movies, and I should
Yeah.
do it like on like The Patriot, Lincoln, maybe Braveheart, like some real freedom loving stuff. That'd be
Deal.
awesome. Plus, those are
Deal.
all great movies.
America.
America, bro, freedom.
Deal.
Word. All right.
Well, with that, I want to thank everybody for joining us, everybody who's watching this afterwards. This has obviously been on our Instagram at Salt of the Streets. If you're watching this afterwards, on our YouTube at Salt of the Streets. We have our Facebook at Salt of the Streets. We have our personal social media. I am at Salt of the Street on Twitter and at alpaca_Donovan on Instagram. Colin is at Big Bird Offie on both of those things. You can find all of this information, saltofthestreets.com, where you can also find places to buy our merch and other places you can listen to the podcast, links to the podcast. I'm going to be making new stuff tomorrow, so we are going to have a whole fresh batch of new merchandise. So if there's anything anybody wants, hit us up. leave us a rating and a review if you're listening to this on a podcast, or if you listen to us on a podcast, if you watch us on YouTube, share us, like us, and tell all your friends. With that, I think that we can end this, Colin. So I hope that everyone has a good weekend. Be nice to each other, and be honest. Try and be objective, and have a good time.